So why would Greg Koch from Koch Sporting Goods be on your history segment this week? Well, now you're going to find out why Greg is with us. So, Greg, how you doing, buddy? Welcome to the show.
Doing good, Jimmy. How you doing?
Good, man. Good. So, Greg, talk to us about the history, how you guys are forever tied to the Cincinnati Bengals organization, from a history perspective, what you guys used to do for the Bengals, and kind of talk about that, because I guarantee you, very few people know about this conversation we're getting ready to have.
Well, it's really my dad kind of the business is a family business. I'm actually fourth generation right now. My dad was the guy that became good friends with the Bengals' original equipment manager, Tom Gray. And Tom and my dad did a lot of business together. And, back then, it was the local sporting goods store like us that took care of the team, everything, and not, it wasn't no Nike involvement or any of the big shoe companies. It just wasn't there. It was a totally different beast. And we got in at the inception and sold them a lot of socks and jocks and medical supplies and a whole ball of wax. And it was a big, they're a big customer for us. And the relationships with the guys there were very informal. I would go with, about the time, in the beginning in '68, when I would go down there, I was 12 years old. I'd go with my dad maybe and pop in the Spinney Field, and there was no security. You just walked in. And you walked in and you could walk through the locker room. You'd see guys there. It was a totally different experience. And they bought everything from us and actually another sporting goods store in town. But you'd go down, you'd have coffee with the equipment man and the trainer and hang out. And I wouldn't have any coffee at that time. But as I got a little bit older, I'd stop in there, 6-8 years later, I got to. And it went on like that for quite a long time.
So Greg, so I know you provided the uniforms. I'm assuming you put the numbers and the names on them and those type of things. So did you have players come in picking their stuff up from you in the store? How did that all work?
No, we basically dropped it all off. Back then, everything was totally different. You first of all, in the beginning, in 1968, we were selling the Bengals most of their medical supplies. We were selling them socks and other things like that, practice gear. But to be the on-field uniform supplier, you needed to be the sand knit dealer. Sand knit was what most of the NFL teams were wearing in that day, and we were not that dealer. The dealer for that brand was Athletic Goods Service, which was a sporting goods store in the team business, didn't have a retail location at all. They were down in the West End near Spinney Field, conveniently. And 2 years after, probably 1970, is when my dad decided that he wanted to buy that business, essentially. So he bought Athletic Goods Service, brought that into our business, and with that we became the supplier for the uniforms. And at that time we would, uniforms were different. They would not buy new every year. They would use them from year to year. You'd pop nameplates off and change guys around. I think guys got the number that they were assigned and didn't really get much say. It was just what was there, what was left over, and what was in good shape, because they weren't spending a ton of money on these things.
So there was a question that somebody on Twitter put a message, says they couldn't be here live. They're going to watch this on a replay. And I think it was something he was asking about in 1988. Was there some sort of uniform change mid-year from one brand to another or something like that in 1988?
Well, that's funny you asked that. I've got my 1988 Super Bowl.
I love it.
It's in 1988, the Bengals went to champion from Russell Athletic. Russell Athletic was what they were in 87. In 88, they went to champion. And that year, when they went to champion, a lot of the jersey patterns and things were changing back then. I mean, back then is when, jerseys used to be all loose fitting and hanging off their body. Well, I mean, in the Super Bowl years, Jim McNally was the line coach for the Bengals, and one of the reasons why the Bengals did so well is that he put a lot of thought into how these players dressed, and he was doing a lot of two-way taping the jerseys to the players' shoulder pads, trying to make them fit tighter so that the linemen did not get held. We actually built jerseys that year, the Super Bowl year, for the linemen and the offensive linemen out of Gore-Tex, because we found that fabric would adhere to the shoulder pads and we could almost compress them. That was the beginning of when we were lacing them on underneath the armpits and pulling them tight so that the guys couldn't get grabbed. So when you look at like jerseys back then, even though the Bengals were wearing champion, in the 1988 season, they weren't all wearing champion. Guys were still wearing Russell. Guys were wearing the homemade jerseys that we made in the store. And it wasn't until they got into the big TV games, the championship game and the Super Bowl, that champions started putting a lot of pressure on them and saying, hey, look, we're the guys. We got to see a C on the sleeve of all these jerseys. So, I mean, one of the best ones was when the champion jerseys all were more tight fitting and they had like tight bands on the arms. Well, Boomer wanted nothing to do with that. And so we built him for the Super Bowl, a Russell jersey with the open arms. And I'd kind of gotten a little bit of trouble because I put a Russell R on both sleeves of those jerseys. We were kind of big in the Russell business then.
That's a great story, man. It's a great story. So right,
I mean, we were the original Bengals pro shop before they had a pro shop. Until Paul Brown was built, they had no fan store. Yeah. So what was really cool then, I mean, if you were a Bengal fan then and you came in the store, your chances of running into a Bengal in the store, I mean, it was every day. Those guys were there shopping for family and friends themselves. So we kind of were a little bit disappointed when the pro shop opened. We lost a lot of that traffic.
Hey, Greg, what was the last year though? When did the NFL take the uniform stuff in house? Was it like late 90s maybe?
You mean as far as making it so that they were providing them?
Yeah, that you were no longer would be able to do that with the Bengals.
I think it was, I think that could be. I can't remember exactly. It's not that we can't. Up till even a few years ago, we were still doing nameplate changes and stuff for them.
Okay.
And the thing is as a matter of fact, I kind of remember doing something maybe just a year or so ago. They know we're still there. We're still doing work for them. We're still doing, practice jerseys and things like that for them. That stuff's still going on. We still have a business relationship. But if they can get it for free, they're not going to buy it from me. And right. That's just the way things have gone. And, I remember a Saturday. I mean, one of the unique things about the game pants is that they're attached to the socks now. When they pull them on, the sock is part of the bottom of their pant. And I remember one of the guys' pants came in and his sock wasn't there. And I had to physically on a Saturday go upstairs and stitch the thing on to the sock onto the pant to attach it, because that's what they.
I'll be damned.
So they still bring stuff in for us.
All right.
Well, thanks guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
That was fun. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, buddy. We appreciate it.
All right.